Last time, we explored the terrifying scope of the great European witch hunts, a continent consumed by fear and suspicion. But how, precisely, did these accusations manifest into such devastating verdicts? Imagine being accused, your fate sealed not by proof, but by fear and superstition. Welcome to the chilling reality of the witch trial, where justice was a twisted mockery, and the innocent had virtually no defense. Today, we peel back the layers of this dark historical process, from the first whispers of accusation to the brutal mechanics of interrogation and the grim inevitability of conviction. Prepare to witness how a system designed to protect, instead condemned. The journey into the abyss of a witch trial often began with the flimsiest of evidence, rooted in superstition and personal vendettas rather than concrete facts. One of the most infamous and legally devastating forms was spectral evidence. This was testimony from accusers, often children or impressionable adults, claiming they saw the accused's spirit or spectre tormenting them, even if the alleged witch was physically elsewhere. Such intangible claims, impossible to disprove, became powerful tools for condemnation, notably in the Salem witch trials. Another chilling proof was the hunt for witch marks, or devil's marks. These were supposedly physical signs on the body where the devil had touched his supplicant, or where familiars, like demonic imps or animals, had suckled. Any mole, birthmark, scar, or natural imperfection could be interpreted as such a mark, subjecting the accused to invasive and humiliating searches. Beyond these pseudo-supernatural signs, accusations often arose from far more mundane origins: bitter neighborly disputes, grudges over land or perceived slights, or simply the misfortune that befell someone after an argument. And most tragically, the testimonies of children, often manipulated or genuinely terrified, were given disproportionate weight, their vivid stories often igniting and fueling the most intense persecutions. Once accused, the individual entered a terrifying labyrinth designed not to seek truth, but to extract confession. In many continental European regions, torture was a sanctioned, almost inevitable, part of the process. The logic was perverse: only a witch would refuse to confess to their pact with the devil, and therefore, torture was justified to break their demonic resolve. Methods were varied and excruciating. Pricking involved systematically probing the body with needles or pins in search of insensitive spots, the supposed witch mark where the devil had rendered the flesh numb. An area that didn't bleed or react to pain was instantly deemed proof of guilt. Sleep deprivation was a common psychological weapon. The accused kept awake for days, often walking or standing, until exhaustion broke their will and blurred their grip on reality. Instruments like thumbscrews and the strapado, where victims were hoisted by their wrists, often with weights tied to their feet, caused immense physical pain, dislocating joints and shattering bones. The goal was always the same: a confession. Under such extreme duress, many innocent individuals, desperate to end their suffering, confessed to impossible crimes, flying, meeting the devil, causing storms simply to escape the immediate agony, often knowing this confession would only seal their death sentence. The psychological impact was profound, stripping individuals of their dignity, sanity, and ultimately, their lives. The term in the context of witch trials is often a misnomer, for due process was almost entirely absent. The accused was rarely considered innocent until proven guilty. Instead, there was a damning evidence was often hearsay, forced confessions, or highly subjective interpretations of misfortune. The accused typically had no one to speak on their behalf, to challenge dubious evidence, or to cross-examine accusers. They stood alone, bewildered and terrified, against the full might of the court and public hysteria. In inquisitorial systems prevalent across much of Europe, the judge also acted as the prosecutor, creating a deeply biased environment. In England, while juries were used, the fear of witchcraft was often so potent that ordinary people were easily swayed by sensational accusations. This era also saw the rise of professional, self-proclaimed like the infamous Matthew Hopkins in East Anglia. Hopkins, known as the exploited the widespread fear for profit, touring villages and towns, promising to root out witches. His methods involved severe interrogations, often leading to false confessions, and he was responsible for hundreds of executions between 1644 and 1647, demonstrating how easily a climate of fear could be monetized and manipulated. With such stacked odds, the verdict for the accused was, in many cases, a grim inevitability. Once the system had been set in motion, the accusation made, the evidence gathered, the confession extracted, the chances of acquittal were vanishingly small. The courts, often swept up in the fervor themselves, saw conviction as a triumph over evil, a confirmation of their righteous fight against the devil's earthly agents. For the unfortunate individual found guilty, the ultimate penalty awaited. The methods of execution varied by region and legal tradition. In England, the common punishment for witchcraft was hanging, a brutal public spectacle. Across continental Europe, however, burning at the stake was frequently prescribed, seen as a purification by fire and a symbolic act to utterly destroy the witch's body and soul, preventing their return. Whether by rope or by flame, the end was absolute, a final, horrifying testament to the power of fear and a justice system utterly corrupted by superstition. The mechanisms of the witch trial, with their spectral evidence, their tormenting interrogations, and their predetermined outcomes, stand as a harrowing chapter in human history. They reveal the terrifying fragility of justice when confronted by mass hysteria and unchecked power. These European horrors, however, weren't isolated. Similar patterns of accusation, belief, and persecution emerged across the globe, rooted in diverse cultural contexts and spiritual traditions. Join us next time on Witches, as we expand our gaze beyond the West and explore global witches, shamans, healers, and hexes beyond the West, uncovering the rich and complex tapestry of magical beliefs that define humanity worldwide. If this journey into the mechanics of historical injustice has captivated you, please consider hitting the like button, sharing this episode with those intrigued by history's darker corners, and subscribing to our channel for more revelations from the world of witches and witchcraft history. Your support allows us to continue bringing these vital stories to light.